Is this too easy for you? Hey guys, welcome to the video. So we're working on the Pursuer helmet from Dark Souls. Sorry, I made myself laugh doing the intro. Doing the Pursuer helmet from Dark Souls 2. Such a fun little helmet. The guy's freaking huge. This has been on my build list for a long time, and I had a client that was like, hey, I want the Pursuer helmet. Like, hey, cool, great chance. Before we get into the video, I have free PDF templates, 100% free on my website. Templates are free, but here's a list of things that aren't. Food. Is that funny? Anywho, there's a donation button if you feel so inclined to pitch in and help out the channel. There's that. Once you've got templates downloaded and, yeah, I think that's about it. This entire build is 4 and 2mm HD foam, just to give it that thin look to make it look more realistic when we get to the painting portion. So first off, we're going to go ahead and lay out our template. First off, I do get questions like, oh hey, why do I only have one side of the template? What you do is you trace and then you flip it over and trace again. And we will get into the nitty gritty on how to cut the certain parts later. To do this, what I like to do is it's even marked on the template. Once you trace all of your parts as well, mark the sides that have a dash on it in the template. Those are going to be cut at an undercut, and you'll see why later. So once you've got everything traced out and marked where you're going to need your undercuts, then we're going to get straight into cutting. Now you'll see, if you just want to go for a general rule and don't want to mark it out, all of the outside arcs for parts 1 through 4, all of the outside arcs are going to be cut at as close as you can to a 45-degree undercut. What an undercut is Ryan, you've got the graphic. That's what an undercut is. You just simply hold your blade and pull at the correct angle. And then the other sides of 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all just perfectly straight. So if you'd like to cut out 1, 2, 3, and 4 first, go ahead and do that. So assembling parts 1 through 4. So what I like to do first is, once they're cut out, is if you're using SKS Props HD foam, you don't need to use heat. You can if you want. It's just gonna, it helps a little bit, I guess. But it's rigid and firm enough that you don't necessarily need to add heat. Go over the parts and curl them, because it's something you may not notice in the game, but his helmet is fluted. Got the garage door open. I should probably stop that. It's a nice motorcycle though. It's very similar to the Alva helmet, if you remember that video. I like to assemble these in a certain order just to make putting the whole general shape together just a little bit easier. So the order I like to go in is parts 1 and 1 go together first. Then parts 1 to 2 on both sides go together. Then you do your 3 and 4, and then put the 3 and 4 back to the 1 and 2s. Once your 1, 2, 3, and 4 is together, then you can go ahead and put on part 5. Part 5 doesn't have any special cuts or anything. It just goes straight on to number 4. Just make sure your edges line up, and then you're good to go. With that, the base dome is done. You can go ahead and set that to the side for now. We're going to come back to that later. So the faceplate is very similar to my Elite Knight helmet. If you're familiar with that template, you'll know what to do here. If you're not, I probably need to do a tutorial on that. I actually have a whole list of tutorials I probably need to get through. If you see a template on my website that doesn't have a tutorial and you'd like to, leave a comment down below what you want me to do. I'm talking really fast. For the faceplate, I do like to start out with the lower half first. The lower half is this part with the slits, the grill. And for this, there's only one side that needs to be cut fancily, and that's the peak. The peak on both sides need to be cut at an undercut 45-degree angle. Once they're cut out, then you can go ahead and glue those together. The only other thing that we need to worry about for the lower half of the faceplate is there is a score line about a ½ inch from the top, and what you can do is just take your razor knife and don't cut all the way through, just cut halfway, quarter of the way through the foam, all the way down, and then heat it and then bend it to get this nice flare on it. It's got a slight flare, and that'll come into play later. So once you've got the lower part of the faceplate done, we're then going to go over to the top part of the faceplate. Now the top part of the faceplate, you're only going to do an undercut on one side of the peak. The other side is flat, and you may be wondering why the bottom plate gets 245s and the other one doesn't. It just helps create this really nice gradual taper. Like, it's supposed to look sharp and then less sharp. So yeah, on the upper faceplate, cut everything out, but the peak, only one side gets an undercut. The other side can be cut at a 90-degree angle. There's only one other part on the faceplate that does get a special cut, and that is the lower part, and you'll see why later. So the lower part of the faceplate should be cut at an outward 45-degree angle, meaning the flare is pointing not in, but out. Once you're done with that cut, you can go ahead and glue the top part of the faceplate together. Once you've got your top and bottom half of the faceplate done and glued together individually, we're then going to attach it. So what I did next is I took off my bottom part of the faceplate just above the score line. I marked out with a Sharpie right above the score line all the way across, and that's going to act as my glue reference for the faceplate. You'll see why in just a moment. Why is it trying to pick up the Solaire face? My face, not that one. Stupid bitch. Yeah, so you're sharpieing the score line to act as a glue guide. And then what you're gonna do is glue over top of that Sharpie line and glue the outer 45-degree angle on the upper half of the faceplate, and just throw that on there like so. And what it's gonna do is it's going to flare out the top part of that bottom faceplate to give you this nice space right here. So it's gonna clearly be two individual pieces, which again will end up looking real nice once it's done. Once you've got your faceplate put together, set that off to the side, and then we're gonna do the top fin. The top fin, super easy. It's just a piece of 4mm HD foam. The best way to mount it on top, because you'll notice there's a really sharp peak at the top of the base of the helmet. What I did is I took that over to my belt sander and I belt sanded it down until there was about a 4mm flat ridge all the way down the helmet, and then just simply glued that on. You can also, while you're over at the belt sander, use it to refine any seams you've got going on. Between 4 and 5 is where I typically like to belt sand to make sure it comes out super smooth. There is this peak at the top of the fin that I did with my Dremel tool. You can do that at any point in the build, just covering it now. Next, we're gonna go over to the front part of the collar of this build. The front part of the collar is super simple. There's not much to it. We are gonna cut it separately and you'll see why later. Part 1, the top front collar. Instead of flipping and tracing two individual parts, what you're gonna do is trace one half, flip it, trace it again, and you're going to make one uniform piece. And the inside arc is going to be cut at an outward 45-degree angle, and that part gets glued directly to the bottom of the chin. Bottom front collar just doesn't have that outward 45-degree angle on the inner arc. Next, we're going to go into the chin. The chin is nothing special other than it's got the same basic principle as the top half of the faceplate. Only one side of the center is going to be cut at an inward 45. Glue those together, and then you can glue the chin and the lower collar, number 1. You can go ahead and glue those together. Don't glue the bottom front collar yet. That one's coming later. Once you've got your chin and your bottom collar glued together, we can go ahead and glue the chin and the collar to the lower half of the faceplate. And to do that, I simply placed the two parts onto the bottom half of the faceplate and drew out about where I wanted it to rest. It's not marked in the template because sometimes some people cut a little bit differently, so I'm just showing you how to place it on in case you've got some weird cuts or you're doing some extensions for sizing or whatever. So mark it out, use barge contact cement, and go ahead and glue that on there. Now on to the back collar. We're gonna follow the same basic principle as the base of this helm. So you'll see there's 4 individual parts on each, and we're gonna stick to the same rule of pick up my face. It's like got my nose is the target. Outer arc, or the outer piece, is going to be your bevel, your inward 45-degree undercut. And that goes for the top, the middle, and the bottom. The rest of the edges can be cut perfectly straight. To reiterate, only the outward edge is going to get an undercut, and it goes together like so. 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then 4, and then they go together. The only other thing to note on this one is the top back collar piece. The part that is going to connect to the base of the helmet should be cut at an outward 45-degree angle, and same reason we did that to the front collar. Once you've got your collar pieces assembled, you can go ahead and put the top part, go ahead and glue that to the back of the base of the helmet like so. God, I gotta take a breather for a minute. This is a lot of work. I forgot how much work this is. Anywho, so once you've got your collar pieces built and put together, and you've got your top collar piece glued to the base of the helmet, we're then gonna go into what I did to make this swivel. So what I did was I took a leather awl and I poked holes at the edge of the completed collar pieces, and I'm actually gonna use really long leather rivets. I'm not going to snap them together yet. We will snap them together and fully assemble after paint. And the reason I'm doing that is because, as you see, it's such a long collar that I wanted when I wear it, I would rather it like, you know, bend, and you see it moves and then goes back together, and that way when it sits, when I inevitably do the full armor and when it sits in the giant collar that it is, it'll like, yeah, I mean, you can see it collapses and then extends and collapse and extends, and that just makes you have a little bit more motion. Same with this front collar piece, but we'll get that in a sec. Once again, do not snap the rivets all the way, just kind of press them with your thumb so you can get a feel for how it's going. With that, we are done with the general construction and we're moving on to detailing.
Nope, we're not quite there yet. Hi, it's me, your local Liam. Forgot to mention something, officer. Please yell at him in the comments to start using bullet points for his steps and not saying them all from memory during the video. An easier way to yell at him would actually be in our Discord channel, which is linked in the description below. Anyways, we need to attach the faceplate somehow to this build. There are a couple different ways you can go about doing this, but they all start the same. You're going to position your faceplate on the helmet where it looks good. You can use this video as reference, or you can reference images from Dark Souls 2, and you're going to use a Sharpie to mark out where it needs to be glued. Now, you can use barge contact cement to glue this in place, or like Liam, you can use magnets so that the faceplate is actually removable. Again, you can see an example of what he does here. The easiest way is definitely the contact cement, but if you want to go that extra step, you can use some magnets. Anyways, now on to detailing.
Starting for detailing, I like to go ahead and make this 2mm or 1mm raised trim that goes around everything. And to do that, I simply just cut 1 or 2mm HD foam strips, and I use Bob Smith super glue to tack them in place and just run it along the edge of the faceplate where the eye is, and the collar pieces. Once you have your trim in place, you can then go ahead and do these decorative rivets. The decorative faceplate rivets. I took some 10mm HD foam dowels. I cut little, little sausage patties out of them. That's the best way I can think of describing them. And then I placed them on the top corners. I took my Dremel and then just added some decorative divots to it. This is one of those, you can't actually wear the armor in the game. You only see it in cutscenes. Golly! So it's falling apart. I can't speak. Anywho, once you have your raised trim and your decorative rivets, we then have just these rivets on the front collar piece. I had some really large rounded thumbtacks that I used, and so I just marked out where they went. I placed them, super glued the back sides, and then trimmed the sharp bits off the end so that way I'm not stabbing myself in the chest. Once you're done with that, you are done with the detailing and everything for the base of this helmet. Now, this is, if you look closely, this is supposed to be an older armor. Like, this is obviously somebody who has been in fights and whatever. So, so we are going to add some damage to this. So for this, I used mostly my Dremel. You can use your razor knife for some of the slashes or whatever. I use a metal cutoff wheel to do some of the scrapes and gashes. I use a stone head to do some of the dents and pitting. Just mostly gashes, pitting, and you can add some hammered texture in there if you want. Just make sure your damage makes sense. And with that, you're done with the base construction of this helmet. In the next video, we'll be covering the paint. Finish now, stop. I want to thank everybody for watching. I probably said thank you way too many damn times. If you want to check out the links down below, they're my socials. Again, best way to get in contact with me if you have questions, comments, concerns, email me or drop me a line on Instagram. I do have a Patreon. It's going to have uncensored content and 1 day early access, so if you just want to hear me swear in the videos, that's the place to go get that, and you get it a day early. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. No, I hope you enjoyed. Douches. You know what, can I lean on this? I can't. Does it make me too tall? That's not a problem I normally have. Here, what if I sit on it like that? Yeah. Yeah, kind of works. You know what? Ryan, I apologize. I should find a different person to work for. Do I have something to put the helmet on? So it's at least in the video? I could probably stop the recording. I could, but I'm not going to.